Hello Internet friends, and welcome to the Legion testing. First pass look with artifact of the Vengeance Demon Hunter. Currently we are on a newer build of the game, which is actually 703.2.1.384. On the current, as I'm recording this, a new build has come out, but as I have looked through everything I could think of, all the bugs I still have in the bug report, and all the things that were in place in talents, like nothing changed for Vengeance, so that'll come in a different build. Because there are quite a number of bugs, let me tell you! The link in the description box has a link to the entire full VOD of testing I did, which is over 5 hours long. Additionally, has a link to all of the bugs and things that aren't working, like how Charred Warblades, which we'll get into what that is in a moment, doesn't even work on like anything but one ability, which is kind of a big deal, I want to say. So then there's that. But we're going to go through all of this here for Vengeance and sort of unlock all the puzzle pieces. And I'm going to tell you, you see how long this video is right now. As I'm recording this in the past, I have no idea. But there is a lot to go through, just as there was for Havoc. So strap in, boys and girls, because this is a big one. But we'll go over some basics first, then we'll go over what the buttons do, and then we'll go over your artifact rotation. It's a little loud there. All right. First thing that I noticed that's a bug, which is very important to the class, though, however, is that you are looking at a leather tank, which is agility-based, as leather is, but you are more of a parry tank. You will have some dodge innately in my gear right now. I've got 9.7% dodge, but the main core of the class is parrying. So dodge is kind of there to help work out your damage mitigation, but that's not the core of the class. You are a parry-based class, similar to how a Death Knight is. In a way, Vengeance is like a leather version of a Death Knight, where they both have a parry-based system and they both heal a lot. How the two classes heal, of course, is very different, but that is at the core of the class. Starting off with your mastery, which is in the wrong tab. Your mastery is called Fell Blood. So your demon spikes, which is your main active mitigation, which reduces physical damage taken by an additional 19.88%, 20% right now with my current gear on the PvP realm, and it also increases your attack power. All masteries increase attack power. Now, most healing spells on tanks, however, are balanced based on and scale with your attack power. But then any class that actually has like self-healing, like a Blood Death Knight, like a Vengeance Demon Hunter, like a Guardian Druid, for example, because their heals scale off attack power, it also makes versatility very strong. Now, I'm in the PvP gear set right here on the PvP 110 realm, so there's lots of versatility on the gear. So I've got 18.8%. So that will make all of my healing stronger. So there is some ridiculous amounts of coefficients that go together with attack power-based healing plus high versatility. We're not sure what the stat layout for Vengeance will be. It looks like it might be like haste, then mastery and versatility are on like the same middle boat, and then crit. Critical Strike, going back on the parry topic, does give you parry, as it should. Haste, of just attack speed, and the only thing that really works with haste, to go back to Fell Blood, is your main source of active mitigation, which is Demon Spikes, which it costs 10 pain, is your resource system for the class is pain, which is similar to Rage, but not like a 1-to-1. But you 10 pain, it's a 15-second recharge by default. You surge with Fell Power, increasing your parry chance by 20% and reducing physical damage taken by 10% plus your mastery. So only physical damage, which you might be like, whoa, hold on there now. What about magic damage? That's where the differentiation comes a little bit more like severe with the Demon Hunter. Now, Blood Death Knights have anti-magic shell. We know this. And they have their heals give them a shield so they can buffer magic damage. But Demon Hunters here, Vengeance has Demonic Ward, which is your tank passive, basically. Your tattoos reduce magical damage you take by 10%. They increase your stamina by 20%. So that means that every piece of stamina you get, so 1 stamina becomes 1.2 on like everything on the gear. And your armor by 200%. Now, my basic amount of armor I have right now is still at almost 50% physical damage reduction. So, obviously it's multiplicative, but Demonic Ward's passive, with just the armor you have on gear and Demon Spikes, gets really high up there for physical damage reduction. That's why we think Haste might be like the better stat, because the more uptime you can have on Demon Spikes, the whole lot less physical damage you can take. You also take passively less magic damage. Of course, I'll show off all the spell animations soon. But then they recently added Empowered Wards. Now, Empowered Wards is a 30-second cooldown. It's basically just like Mark of Ursal on the Guardian Druid. That doesn't cost anything, though. And you reduce magic damage taken by 30% for 6 seconds. It's got a cool little fell bubble effect going on there. I did put in my bug report that the animation only lasts for like 2.5 seconds, but the buff lasts for 6, which is kind of strange. You might want to see that the buff lasts the entire time, but it doesn't. Then there's also Fiery Brand, which is a 30-yard range, 1-minute cooldown that instantly deals fire damage to the target and then reduces the damage they do to you by 40% for 10 seconds. It's kind of like a directed, stronger, demoralizing shout from the Protection Warrior. Demo Shout's like an AoE damage reduction to the warrior, but like 20% or so. This is 40% to one target. By default, it's 8 seconds. There's an artifact perk, which we'll get into soon, that gives it 2 more seconds of duration. There's also an artifact perk that also amplifies this a lot more, which of course you'll see soon. As we get deeper and deeper into this, there are so many like little like puzzle box pieces or like Rubik's Cube sides that like line up. And there is, as I coined on stream while testing this, if you were to look up the word synergy in a dictionary, you'd find a picture of a Vengeance Demon Hunter next to it. Because so many things, like, help this ability helps that ability, this talent is buffed by this ability, which helps that ability, which helps this ability. It just goes on and on and on. Which is good, but I almost wonder if it has too much of that. So those are your key defensives for magic or physical, as Fiery Brand is all damage. Empowered Wards is only magic. And then, of course, your Demonic Wards gives you more stamina and armor for physical damage reduction and 10% less magic taken. Of course, you know, at a Demon Hunter, you can double jump at the apex of your jump, or if you want to just actually use Glide, you can use Glide as an actual ability. That's how it works. Shattered Souls is another passive, which is a much more interesting passive once you factor in some things for Vengeance down the road. They recently changed the tooltip to say killing a target. It does not have the side caveat of if it wields XP or honor. I'm not sure if it's a bug or not, or now implied, but it should still be like really straightforward. But you have a chance when you kill a target to shatter their soul, leaving a soul fragment behind by 20 seconds. Lesser soul fragments that interact with the Vengeance Demon Hunter, which we'll get into after this, also last 20 seconds as well. The fragment can be consumed when you approach it, healing you for, at currently, 420,142 health. That is attack power based plus mastery. If I do have it over here, it's a huge amount of attack power base. It's just massive. Like some of the multiplicative sides of the attack power coefficient are like in the multiple of thousands for this. But if it's a demon's soul, you'll get the 20% increased damage for 20 seconds. Now, because we really can't test with demons particularly well right now, I'm not sure if the other component with souls works with shear. So shear is your main bread and butter. This is your rotational cooldown. It generates just your spellable button, basically. It's like kind of like your heroic strike, I suppose. It doesn't cost anything. Generates 10 pain. But it also has a chance to shatter off a lesser soul fragment from your target that heals you for 84,028. Now, shear doesn't say what the chance is. It's just like a very low chance, I suppose. But the lesser soul fragments that you can collect, which are tracked here as a buff, or you see it right there, or of course on the new little, bottom bar here that's part of the default UI. These last for 20 seconds, but they are at 1/5 as powerful as you're killing a mob soul. 1/5 as powerful, or 20% of the maximum of having that. But since you can have 5, if you actually shear off 5 souls, you get the full benefit of the same amount of healing you get from Shattered Souls. Now, this will all play into other talents and abilities soon, so remember that. 1 lesser soul is equal to 5 to make 1 greater soul or 1 regular soul fragment. Right? They're 20% as powerful as a full soul fragment, 1/5 as powerful, however you want to look at it. So that's how that works. The pain system, while I go into pain real quick, is you generate 10 pain per shear, which you can just spam. Or you gain 20 pain over 6 seconds for using Immolation Aura, which is your melee sort of AoE. It's just on you, a Thunderclap plus a Deep Wounds or a Consecration. But you instantly deal fire damage around you within 8 yards, and then you radiate for some fire damage over the next 6 seconds. During that 6 seconds, of course, you will generate pain. What you use pain on, besides being demon spikes, which pop up out of your back like this, which are very visible when you have them on. There's no animation for spawning them while they're already spawned, and there's no real, like, flashy animation for when they pop up. They just kind of, like, appear, which I'm sure they might add that to in the future. They just kind of, like, blah, that's it. So hopefully that will, you know, a little bit of, like, a fell eruption from your back or something like that. It's the same animation for a male or female character, but is Soul Cleave. So Soul Cleave costs 40 pain, melee range, where you viciously strike all enemies in front of you. It is a frontal cone for a whole bunch of physical damage. However, what it will do when the tooltip's broken, it pulls in all nearby lesser soul fragments. It won't pull in the greater ones. Like the full Shattered Souls, when you kill something out in the open, they like fly really far away. But Soul Cleave will pull in all lesser soul fragments within 20 yards. So if you get a whole bunch of souls out here, like that one right there, and you blap, you yank it in. That's an artifact passive turning me into a Metamorphosis Demon Hunter, which you'll be able to see that a couple times during this. Whenever you eat a soul, you have a chance to turn into that. So it is an AoE. 40 pain is the cost of it. That's the animation for it. I think it has 2 animations. The buff you see in the corner is from the talent, which we'll go over soon. So that's how you interact with your souls. Pretty straightforward, right? You shear for your pain generation. You soul cleave to not only do more damage, but also to pull in all of your souls and heal yourself, right? Okay. Throw Glaive for Havoc has a cooldown and some other interactions. But Throw Glaive for Vengeance is pretty boring. It just has no cooldown. It does high threat, and it has the bounce mechanic, and it does damage. It's your ranged pulling tool. That's about all it does. There's not a whole lot that you can add on to or use with Throw Glaive. It just that's all it does. Additionally, you have Infernal Strike baseline, which is a 20-second recharge, not affected by haste. It's just Heroic Leap. It's a fire damage Heroic Leap, where you briefly turn into the demon form animation, and you leap, and you deal fire damage around you when you land. But it has a large range, 30 yards passive, and there's a talent that even makes that even further, which I'll show off. Only other way you can really gain pain is with Consume Magic. It's your interrupt, and this happens for Havoc as well, but they'll generate Fury. It's a 20-yard range, 20-second cooldown where you interrupt the spell casting and locks them out of that school for 30 seconds. If you do lock them out, the tooltip is broken. If you lock a spell out, you will gain 50, in this case, pain, or 50 Fury if you're Havoc, if you interrupt a spell. It's actually pretty powerful that a tank gains this much bonus from interrupting, because I know, like, Root Interruption for Warriors has been a thing for a while, where you glyph it to gain more damage if you interrupt something, but, like, no one else has really had something that gives you a benefit from interrupting. So that's a really huge one, though. 50 of your resource when you're a tank is a huge deal. Additionally, of course, you have your sigils. We'll go over Metamorphosis in a minute. You're all chomping at the bit, right? So you have sigils, and there are 3 baseline. You can talent into a 4th one. Sigils are all, unless talented, they are drop cast, reticle based, 20-yard, like around or across rather. They're 20-yard drop AoEs. They all do one very specific thing. Sigil of Chains is a 2-minute cooldown. It can be cast 30 yards away from you, which while I bring up this casting glyph right now, in World of Warcraft now, if you ever have a drop AoE that has a max range, what will happen is when your mouse goes to the edge of that range, you can't actually push it any farther. You don't get like the error circle anymore. It just stops it at the max range you can cast it, which is pretty nice. So Sigil of Chains is like Ursol's Vortex and Mass Grip, kind of, where you put a sigil down, they will all by default activate 2 seconds later. The animation is very telling. It has 1 pulse, 2 pulse explosion. Sigil of Chains will pull all affected enemies by the sigil to the center of it, and then it will have a 70% snare on them for 6 seconds. It looks like this. They all have a different color. Oh, that's Sigil of Silence. Wrong binding. Sigil of Silence is the same thing, but it's an AoE silence for 6 seconds. This is Chains. And this is Flame. Now, Flame has a much shorter cooldown, 30 seconds, and it does initial fire damage and then a fire damage dot. So it is just more AoE crowd control and, of course, a rotational DPS ability. So that's what Flame looks like right there. And, of course, the dot is on the targets for the next 6 seconds. So all sigils, by default, activate after 2 seconds. All their effects last 6 seconds. And that is how they work. Now, Metamorphosis is a weird beast. The tooltip is horribly bugged right now. So actually, I have to go over here into my notes, open up the database, and grab you the full tooltip, because it just doesn't. A lot of tooltips right now in the beta build, like, they just don't show up. They just stop working after a while, which is just kind of strange. But you know, alpha will beta, gamma will epsilon, or whatever thing you want to say. So the way that Metamorphosis reads in full is that you will transform into a demon form for 20 seconds. You increase your current and maximum health by 30%. And you generate 10 pain every 1 second. So you're in it for 20 seconds. You will generate 200 pain over those 20 seconds. 10 a second for 20 seconds. That's a lot. It's very fast. Metamorphosis for Blood Elves and Night Elves has a different model for male and female. Same thing for male and female Blood Elves or Night Elves, like I said. Talking over myself now. The color of your tattoos will change based on the color of your skin ones. So I have green ones right now. That's why you'll see green tattoos. However, for Havoc, when you invoke Metamorphosis, you fly forward with like a Infernal Strike animation. But since Infernal Strike is baseline for Vengeance, Metamorphosis is more of just a actual tank cooldown or DPS cooldown, sort of, for Vengeance. You just go blip, and then you are. Then there you are, right? But with you gaining so much pain, you basically get to spam Soul Cleave. Now, spamming Soul Cleave without souls, you're like, well, why would I want to do that? We'll get to that in a minute, right? So you just do this, you're doing stuff, you gain a ton of HP, and you gain a ton of pain generation. Right. That's how Metamorphosis works. So that's the basic kit. You still have Spectral Sight, as you would normally. 10-second duration, 30-second cooldown where you see through physical barriers as well as enemies that are stealth or invisible. Attacking or taking damage disrupts the sight. You also snare yourself, I think, to 70% movement speed, I want to say. But that's Spectral Sight. I'm not sure if that's going to ever be used for anything like that. And you, of course, have a taunt 30-yard range called Torment, which also increases the threat you do to the target by a lot for 3 seconds. That's just your Torment right there. The other things you're seeing in the spellbook now, of course, are from talents. So, before we go into talents, however, let's go into your artifact weapon. The Aldrachi Warblades, or Aldrachi, or the Aldrachi, or whatever they're pronounced as right now. Or the Al Bundy Warblades. I don't know. They're really cool, though. The Aldrachi were a proud race, proud to serve. Millions of demons died before the Aldrachi were wiped out, and it took Sargeras himself to kill their king. So, not every perk works right now, but you gain Soul Carver as your 1-minute rotational ability. Now, this will carve into the soul of your target, shattering off 2 lesser souls, and then dealing a whole bunch of fire damage over 3 seconds. Again, the tooltip breaks, and they go read you the full one over here on the database. The fire damage dot that it deals over 3 seconds, you will then they'll lose 1 additional lesser soul every 1 second for 3 seconds during the fire damage dot. There's no real animation for Soul Carver, just kind of happens, but there's 2 souls, 3 hit me, 4, and 5. So it spawned 5 in total, and then you can pull in all 5 of those souls, right? You can only ever have 5 souls out at one time. Sometimes it looks like it bugs out and gives you up to like 7, depending on how the server reacts to when you spawn them all. But 5 is the max, and again, 5 equals 1 regular soul fragment, because they are weaker than the regular ones. So that's how you can on demand, like I need souls soon or I'll need souls in a moment, you can soul carve, then cleave, and then let the other 2 or 3 build up so you can have like an instant heal, and then you can pull in the other ones to heal after that. So you have like a little wiggle room because it lasts 20 seconds, right? But this artifact weapon has so many things on it. So many things. The Tormented Soul passive here doesn't work, which increases the soul cleave damage by 15%. Big whoop, right? You get 3% additional parry chance. Okay. Shatter the Souls is that Sheer has a 15% increased chance to shatter a lesser soul fragment from the target while you are below 50% health. Nice. We don't know what the actual chance of Sheer shattering off a lesser soul even is, so 15% more of that. Okay, it's there, right? It's there. For the first 3 seconds of Demon Spikes, you have 30% additional parry chance. That is additive if you want to watch my parry chance right now. Right here. 59%. Then it goes 29%. 30% additional on top of the 20 it gives normally, which is pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. Infernal Strike deals more damage. Woo! Siphon Power currently is unable to be tested or looked at because it's brand new, where Empowered Wards will also increase your agility by up to 20% based on magic damage taken. I mean, like, if you take... Usually those things like that mean that if you have Empowered Wards up and you take, like, almost your entire HP pool and damage, you'll gain, you know, up to 19% of your agility. Like, you'll... that much. But you have to, like, almost die for it, so... We don't know how that works because we can't test it. We'll save the future. Honed Warblades is you get 15% more damage on Sheer, your main button. Devour Souls is your Soul Cleave will heal you for an additional 3% of your maximum health when used. Now that's not on top of anything else. It's kind of worded as an additional bonus, but that just means that whenever you Soul Cleave, ever, you'll heal for 3% of your max health. So because you have more health in Metamorphosis, what I went through earlier, when you go into meta and you gain a ton more HP, which is 30% by default, you heal yourself for 3% of your max HP per Soul Cleave, without any lesser fragments up. It's like Death Strike without the shield bubble thing. So that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Aura of Pain is 15% more damage than Immolation Aura, which is not insignificant because of something else we'll go over in a moment. So Embrace the Pain is you increase the maximum health gained from Metamorphosis by 15%. Now this perk here, and this one, Will of the Illidari, which increases your base maximum health by 15%. There is a huge graph that was created by one of the viewers during the stream that shows that there is some really inconsistent stamina and or max health math going on right now. That Metamorphosis actually like double dips Will of the Illidari. So you gain 15% passively, then 15% more in the demon form Metamorphosis, and then the health gained by the 30% is also amped by 15% more. So you gain a lot of health. I mean, I go from 2.139552 million right here with one button press, almost gain 1 million HP. So I go to 2988419, and that should be a little more than 30%. It's like 39.6% more HP. So, but something is amiss here with like Will of the Illidari might be working in both forms instead of only once. But there's a huge imager graph that's linked in the description box if you want to check that out. Demonic Flames increases the duration of Fiery Brand by 2 seconds. That's why it lasts for 10, not 8. The next talent, though, or perk rather, Fiery Demise, it will also increase the fire damage you deal to the target by 30%. Doesn't really mean much right now, right? I mean, you Fiery Brand something, and then you can do more fire damage to it. That's good. Hold on. Charred Warblades. You heal for 15% of all fire damage that is dealt by you. This doesn't work on, like, anything. But it's supposed to work. I will list them all off here, and if you looked in the bug report guide below. So Immolation Aura should heal you for the initial hit and the dots that are ticking, the AoE around you. No healing right now. The Sigil of Flame, no healing right now. The Fiery Brand, yes, only on the initial impact. but there's another talent that increases that. Soul Carver, which is this, does fire damage. No healing on that. Infernal Strike, no healing. Fell Blade, which is a talent, no healing. Your Fiery Brand plus Burning Alive. Well, we're talking about Fiery Brand right now. There's a talent called Burning Alive that for every 2 seconds when you put up Fiery Brand, it will deal a small amount of fire damage and then spread from the primary target to a nearby. So this also makes it sort of like a Demoralizing Shout, but also kind of like Living Bomb spread, like if you're Kael'thas. So if you put it up on one target, it will spread to a nearby target, and then from this one again, will spread to another nearby target. But that initial hit healed me, but all these dots ticking right now do not heal. They don't work. And then Fell Devastation, a talent we'll get into a little bit later, also has no healing component involved. So Charred Warblade just doesn't work with all the fire damage you're supposed to do. There's lots of like trickle healing that the Vengeance Demon Hunter can do, which I think is supposed to offset the fact that because you're a parry class, you kind of have like not consistent DR from incoming physical damage. You can heal, you know, sort of like passively with, Soul Cleave with Devour Souls works just fine. But because this one does not work, you're getting a lot less of your own, like, trickle healing effects from all your fire damage. It doesn't work. So effects that, like, Aura of Pain that increase the fire damage, or Fiery Demise, when Fiery Brand is on a target, when you do more fire damage, it'll do more fire damage and heal you for more, don't work right now. There's that synergy is broken with this, but when that gets implemented, that's going to be a huge portion of just additional, like, hot healing on the Vengeance Demon Hunter based on the damage you're doing properly at the right times, of course, and with the certain abilities. Because Sigil of Flame, plus the Immolation Aura and Soul Carver, and then Firebrand, you can have a lot of fire damage sort of, like, bursting. And because it doesn't heal you, we have no idea how impactful that will be. Because also, this does make Leech a very interesting stat for Vengeance, as well as for, like, you know, for Blood DK as well. So that's obviously a tertiary stat, a special stat, so if you ever get it, it might be really great, because it will technically sort of not double dip, but Leech healing is separate from Charred Warblades. You'll see it in the combat log right here, that you'll see right there. It says Charred Warblades. If I cast this, the initial Fiery Brand hit will heal me, but nothing else Charred Warblades right now. So it's just bugged. Fueled by Pain is the passive you saw earlier when you have a chance to enter Metamorphosis form for 5 seconds each time you consume a soul fragment. This does give you the pain gain. So if I Soul Carver, just to get some souls out here. There they are. They're beautiful little things. I built up some pain right now. And I hopefully go into meta. There it is. Watch my pain. 10, 10, 10. So you do... Fueled by Pain is incredibly amazing with some other talent and layout combinations and how you work with your souls. Obviously, you can't play around it and know it's going to happen. But because you do get the pain generation and you do gain the just the bonus of being in that form, and because you're going to have so much more pain to spam Devoured Souls, Soul Cleaves, the Fueled by Pain synergies are really good. Like, it's, again, things just help a lot with how the Vengeance Demon Hunter eats souls, utilizes them for healing, and it gets even more in the talents. So it's a really cool talent. Obviously, you can't know it's going to happen because you don't know the percentage chance to get it. It may have an ICD, it may not, because you either go into it back and forth or you just don't go into it for a while, which that's just how math works out with ICDs, but we're not sure. Or it could be PPM. We don't know yet. That'll take a lot of testing that I, already did 5.5 hours in one sitting, so we'll see about that in the future. Your other unlock is called Painbringer, which each soul fragment consumed also grants you 3% flat damage reduction for everything for 4 seconds. Not 4 seconds per soul, just 4 seconds. But if I pull in 5 souls here, one got yanked immediately, you'll see Painbringer right there, but I'll pull in 3 souls right now, you'll get 9% damage reduction for 4 seconds. So not only does eating souls give you a small and a chance to go into Metamorphosis form, which gives you more pain to spam more on-demand cooldown heals, or just have the option for having it when you need it. It's just a lot going on with how souls interact with the Vengeance Demon Hunter, and it's really cool. It's pretty fun. And it's a little uncontrolled, but that's kind of the point, I suppose. All right. Talents now. These, there's only 2 that I don't like where they're positioned. There are a couple that are like, but we'll see how it goes. So right now, we'll go over the passive ones that I have all switched up right here because I didn't want to have anything pop up in my spellbook like confusing people. So Blade Turning is just when you parry an attack, you generate 5 pain. Now you're kind of like, okay, well that's fine because I'm a parry-based class. So Razor Spikes, while Demon Spikes is active, so you're getting the higher parry chance and you're generating more pain for parrying. Only auto attacks, of course, be parried. Some specials might be able to be, but I doubt it. Your physical damage dealt is increased by 20%, and your melee attacks will also have a 50% snare. Probably good for ad tanking and ad kiting, right? But then Feed the Demon. Consuming a soul fragment reduces the remaining cooldown of demon spikes by 2 seconds. So parry equals pain. Pain helps me make sure I can eat souls. Souls reduce the cooldown of demon spikes. And Razor Spikes gives me more physical damage and a snare. Well, that's fancy. It works really fast. If I put up 1 stack of demon spikes here real quick, and then you're seeing me grab some souls that randomly pop off anyway. But if I pull 5 in, oh, we're back to 2 stacks. Feed the Demon obviously will only really work on like probably physical damage only bosses due to the fact that demon spikes only works on parry and physical damage reduction. But it's still, the uptime on this is like above 80%. If you take the 2 talents, you can keep demon spikes up for so long. Based on, of course, just RNG with your souls being shattered off. But the other way you could look at this is another talent up here. It's called Fracture. Fracture costs 40 pain, where you brutally slam the target for physical damage and you shatter off 2 lesser soul fragments. The animation for this is super cool, as I will now illustrate, that you actually go into demon form and like headbutt them, or like roar, or like hit them with your spikes on your back or something. No cooldown. Obviously, when you're fracturing off souls, you're not using Soul Cleave to pull in those souls. But again, you can pull them in just easily once you have the pain for it. You pull in 4 right there, reduce the cooldown, hit some Soul Carver right there real quick, grab some more souls, put up demon spikes, keep going. Here's another Soul Cleave right there. There's Immolation Aura. We'll do 1 more GCD, grab demon spikes again. There it is. We're going to pull up to here to 40. We're going to fracture right there. Demon Spikes is going to fall off. We'll put it back up again. We'll build back up our pain stacks right here. And then we will pull those other 2 back in. We'll put Demon Spikes back up again. You see what I mean? Like, it just rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls forward. And then the random chances to go into Metamorphosis. And then because you're pulling in so many souls so often, you're also getting, again, the Painbringer bonus. And Fueled by the Pain is popping up over and over again. Getting the HP bonus, the pain generation bonus, like it all just keeps happening and happening. You have the defensive spike bonus going over and over again where you have more parry. That's why like Blade Turning like feels more attractive if you go this Razor Spikes Feed the Demon build, or Fracture. The one thing I have wrong with this talent is Abyssal Strike, where your Infernal Strike's range is increased by 10 yards and its cooldown reduced by 5. Now, this looks awesome and feels awesome to jump this far away. That's a big leap, though. However, it's in a tier with pain generation on parry and on-demand pain equals souls. So my suggestion I put in my notes is that Agonizing Flame should be here, and Abyssal Strike should be here. And here's why. Agonizing Flame, word to speak, Adam, is a 30% sprint while you're in Immolation Aura, and it deals 100% additional damage. So, because of Charred Warblades hopefully working in the future, this would put Agonizing Flame as a small form sprint plus heal and AoE damage, or pain generation on a passive, which works with the Demon Spike build, or on-demand souls. Like, it makes you have a choice between self-healing and damage, passive pain generation, which can lead to more damage or more mitigation, or a ability choice that changes how you want to work with how you pull in souls. And Abyssal Strike doesn't feel like it works there, because it's just movement. I just don't think you'd ever use this over Blade Turning or Fracture. But if Agonizing Flames was here, you could pick based on the encounter. And Abyssal Strike being at 100 also goes into this next tier. So Fell Eruption, same thing you have on Havoc, where it is a 25-second cooldown, 20 pain cost, terrible amount of physical damage instant, but it's a 2-second stun, and it will do double damage to targets permanently immune to stuns. So it'll do good burst damage, but again, like, it does physical damage. And it looks like a shaman spell, but it doesn't have any synergy with the class because, you'll get more damage against a boss because they're immune to stuns. But Agonizing Flame is a heal and deals more damage on fire damage. And you have so many things that work with fire damage, and it's a 2-second stun. It kind of feels like it's a PvP ability, or like maybe open world questing to like burst things down. But it's kind of utility because of the stun. And then quick into sigils, for crying out loud, is that all sigils, let me read the actual spell tooltip here because the rest of it's broken. All sigils will activate 1 second faster, so instead of activating at 2-second intervals, it'll activate it in 1 second. Additionally, the cast range of them is increased by 10 yards. So now, like, yeah, they'll fire off, boom, boom, bam, they're done. 0.5 seconds, 0.5 second animations, and then the spelling. But it doesn't, like, that's utility to some degree, because that means that you have a greater range to cast your silence or your grip, and a quicker time for them to activate. So, why is Agonizing Flames here, which is just straight up, I mean, yeah, it has utility because it's a movement speed increase, but the increased damage gives you more of a tank-ish cooldown because it heals you. Or it should. So it's weird. I suggested that Abyssal Strike and Agonizing Flame should be swapped, because then you get to choose between more leaps, better sigils, or a micro stun. That's what I think anyway. You'll notice here there's the other things that talk about sigils. There is like a sigil build. I'm not sure how important it is or how good it is, but we'll see about that in the future. We'll just keep Fracture talented for now. So, Fellblade, same thing for Havoc. It does fire damage for Vengeance. It should do chaos damage for Havoc. This is reduced by haste. It is a short form dash, or I guess the like charge or leap kind of mechanic, like Illidan has in Heroes of Storm, or it's actually just a charge, right? Deals fire damage, and Sheer has a chance to reset the cooldown of Fellblade, and it generates 20 pain when used. Doesn't work on dummies right now. It doesn't give you the pain. It's like bugged out, as many things are right now, of course, but it's broken. So if you use it, you can get the reset, but you don't get the pain generation. But it should heal you when you use it because fire damage does not do that right now, and you can use it more often. Rotational cooldown gives you a choice in some extra healing and movement and even damage. Soul Barrier, which I had talented earlier, goes into more of the Soul Fragment shenanigans. So consuming a Soul Fragment while you're at full health grants you that shield, that amount of health as an absorb shield for 10 seconds. This does work with overhealing. So if I go over to this little dungeon guy, and he starts beating on me, hit me a little bit, he'll barely hurt me. This dungeon guy can't hurt me at all. But if I soul carve off, and to get multiple souls, to get my 5 up there, and you notice how I'm at 95% health, normally if I pull in all of my souls, I would have 420,000 healing as an absorb shield. If I do this though, I get 420,000 as a absorb shield because I pulled in 5 souls. So the Cleave, the Devour Souls, healed me for more than the damage that was dealt by the Dungeoneer target dummy, and then everything else was pulled in as a heal. If you use the same thing on this boss dummy here, and you're down to like 80% HP or something like that, and you pull in a whole bunch of souls, it still does work. That any small amounts that are remaining on a soul will go automatically into the overhealing category, and that overhealing will give you the shield. This guy's kind of like destroying me right now. This dummy hits pretty hard. The amount of damage it does. Let's go into Metamorphosis real quick, just to get that pain generation going. I want to go Soul Carve here to see if I can make this work. We're going to spam some cleaves. It popped up there for a moment. It's tough. Obviously, this guy hurts me a lot more. But it's good to... I guess the thing we touched about on the stream is that it's... Because if you don't have Soul Barrier, you will just lose the chance of having the healing Because if you overheal with any of your souls, nothing happens. It just goes away. Obviously, you still get the little bit of DR from eating the souls and whatnot, but Soul Barrier is a good passive either for about to taunt swap and you can build up a shield, or you're tanking and healers keeping you topped off, so you keep refreshing your Soul Barrier on yourself. It's really powerful. The other choice in that is Last Resort, which is basically cheat death for the Vengeance Demon Hunter. So when you sustain fatal damage, instead you transform into a Metamorphosis Demon, you return to 30% health as a 3-minute internal cooldown. This does work if meta is on cooldown. It does. If you meta'd and it's on cooldown and you dip below 30% health, or you die, you have to take fatal damage, you will instantly turn into Metamorphosis Demon, you'll heal to 30% health for the full duration of 20 seconds, but then it'll have a 3-minute cooldown. So you can sort of have 2 back-to-back. This tier is awesome. This is a really great tier of choosing what you need for a specific fight. Soul Rending is still here for both sides of the spec. You gave 50% leech while in Metamorphosis, which is amazing to some degree for the Vengeance tank, but it's also like really random or only usable when you're a Metamorphosis by default or with Last Resort. So it could be good for progression, otherwise probably not incredibly potent all the time. Ashton Blood is every 20 pain that you spend reduces the cooldown of your sigils by 1 second, which is utility or damage or healing, because you're going to consume pain and you're going to have quicker cooldowns on your sigils. That's what you might have been seeing a couple times earlier when I was spamming buttons and my sigils were cooling down faster. But it's strange because it's not directly healing you, because of course having more Sigil of Flame means more healing and more AoE damage, but mostly I think it's the utility tier right here, because you get to have more grips, you get to have more silences if necessary. And the counterpoint to that, besides Soul Rending, is Spirit Bomb, which I just don't... It's a cool ability, but I just don't know how it's going to play out in the long run. So it's a 30-yard range where you launch a nearby soul fragment at your target. It explodes for some shadow damage, and then it debuffs all affected targets with Frail. Frail increases the chance that you can shear off a lesser soul fragment from them. So it's neat, but it consumes your souls in a way that you don't get to eat them yourself. And because we've gone through so many soul fragment builds where you eating them is really important, it works well with Fracture because you can on-demand pull them off and then drop them back in, right? I don't know how... It does AoE damage, right? So, but like very, very little. So I don't know. I'll have to figure out, you know, more talented Vengeance will figure out Spirit Bomb versus Ashton Blood or Soul Rending, because it looks good on paper, possibly. But because you don't know the chance anyway, it's just like, I'll just take Ashton Blood, just have more sigils more throughout the fight. More grips, more, you know, Sigil of Flame. Which is how I kind of feel right now. So Feast on the Souls, we'll go over here. Feast of Souls is just that Soul Cleave puts a hot on yourself based on your attack power for 6 seconds. This does ignite stack, sort of. So if you Soul Cleave multiple times in a row, you do gain a larger hot. But then parts of the hot that are pushed forward just fall off after the 6-second window behind anyway. Concentrated Sigils will put all sigils at yourself, and their duration is increased by 2 seconds. So this means you cannot no longer cast sigils far away from you. They pop at yourself, but they do make the duration of the effect last for 8 seconds now. So this works with the Sigil of Flame, of course, to have a 8-second Sigil of Flame dot. It makes them more concentrated. The rest of the ability actually says... Yeah, it just says 2 seconds. Yeah, just broken at the end there. This is pretty good. It makes Quicken Seals, which means you have a larger cast radius, kind of weaker, but Quicken Seals still gets you the faster activation time. Brand of the Hunt is strange, where you mark a target, like you would with the Nemesis ability on Havoc. You gain 10% more damage to that target. At any given time, over the 1-minute duration, you can Illidan on the hunt to that target. The on the hunt like debuff is 30 seconds long, so you can technically use it twice during the duration. Very specific, possibly good for like a Zul'Harrak style fight, where like maybe you have to run away from a boss, or go pick up an ad and then come right back to the boss. Maybe. Otherwise, it's just for damage, I kind of feel. It's 10% direct damage, whereas Razor Spikes is only 20% physical. This is 10% overall, which will increase your fire damage, which will increase your self-healing. Razor Spikes, again, only physical damage dealt. Sigil of Misery is a 1 minute cooldown. I can't taunt it right now. When you place a Sigil of Misery at the target location, that activates either 2 seconds or 1 second, or at you. That is a AoE fear. It's like an AoE blind, I guess, or a gouge. It's a cower effect. It's a 32-second disorient, and if damage on any of those targets will break the disorient effect. So it's CC, which this is in a weird tier right now here too, because it's with like damage and damage plus mitigation, sort of, because and snaring. I don't know. And it is obviously a sigil ability with quickened and etched and concentrated in Sigil of Misery, but if it's any good or not, we'll have to just wait and find out in tuning. You already saw Feed the Demon. Your other two 100 talents are Nether Bond, which is basically, it's super Spirit Link for only you and one person, not your co-tank or your main tank, but it could be anybody. 2 minute cooldown where you bind yourself to a friendly player for 15 seconds. Every 1 second, the player, you and the player, your health is redistributed so that you have the same percentage of max health every 1 second. We were thinking that this could be used to, like, trigger certain mechanics that would kill someone and then not kill them, but then just chunk the HP of the tank. But since it only works every 1 second, if a one-shot effect were to happen, it will either kill the other player and then bring the Death Knight very low in HP, or it will just not work because it won't register in time. It depends on how fast the ability would kill you, like soaking a black hole on Mythic Zul'Harrak, for example. Like, you just die without a DR or a cheat death. So we don't know if Nether Bond will work. Obviously, it's intended to just be like, you're off tanking, and your tank's gonna take an extra stack or two of this debuff. You Nether Bond them to survive through it, right? As a tank buddy cooldown. But it might have some weird shenanigans in the future where you can put it, because it has a 40-yard range, on like a caster soaking some dumb ability. You know, a hunter's out there soaking some stupid dumb ability that would kill you otherwise. You Nether Bond them so they don't die. And, you know, it could have that way about playing around, but we'll have to see. The other one down here is Fell Devastation, which is not I-Beam, but is I-Beam for Vengeance. It looks different. The beam doesn't come out of your face. It comes out of like your whole chest area here. I'll show you. But what Fell Devastation does is it's called 30 Pain. It's channeled, just as I-Beam is. 1 minute cooldown, 20-yard range. You unleash the Fell within you, damaging enemies directly in front of you for a whole bunch of fire damage. And then causing damage also heals you for up to... So this is 50% of your maximum health. Actually, this was changed. This is new. So it no longer says 50% max health. It actually gives a value. Which this value, though, before was still affected by versatility. The problem with Fell Devastation is that it's fire damage. So it will also work with Charred Warblades, sort of. But yeah, this should... I think this is still coded to be 50% HP. They just made the tooltip actually give you a health amount. You'll see right here, it ticks 10 times. It's a lot. I shut it on one target. But you see the Fell Devastation healed you 83,000, 83,000, 83,000, right? Times 10. So 830,000. But that amount changes with versatility because it is a heal. So I put all these versatility trinkets right here. Yeah, see, 862, 430. So it has a base amount of health based on your health that it will heal you for during the channel, as well as factoring in versatility because it's a heal. But then because it doesn't actually work with Charred Warblades at all, as you see there's no Charred Warblades here at all, it might not actually, but it should. Basically, the fire damage it deals, 15% of that would also heal you as well. It's a huge DPS burst and healing cooldown, and if you don't need... Like, if it's a magic damage boss, so, like, physical damage reduction is not a big deal with Razor Spikes, or with Demon Spikes, rather, or you don't need Nether Bond for you and your co-tank, Fell Devastation could be fantastic. But it is a weird... I'll do it on one target real quick here so you can see the tooltip. Oh, I canceled it. There, it's fine. So, Fell Devastation healed you for 8301, and it heals for the 21,750 right now. So you can actually cancel it. I didn't know you can cancel it. I hit escape there to close the talent window. and it actually canceled Fell Devastation. I don't think you can actually cancel I-Beam, though. Maybe with like a stop casting macro, perhaps? But that's good to know. At least a tank can cancel the ability if they need to move or whatever. Because you can't move while channeling, as you can't move while channeling I-Beam either. So that's basically it for the Vengeance Demon Hunter. If you have any questions, feel free to put those down in the comments below. If you want to watch the entire testing VOD, please check out that link in the description box below or on my channel guide for all of my other testing I have done. That is linked on my Twitch channel, or you can type !guide in my TwitchTV chat at FinalBossTV on Twitch. It looks a lot of fun, and it overwhelmed me a little bit because I tested it for 5.5 hours. But there is a lot of, again, synergies involved here in the Vengeance Demon Hunter. Just lots of soul interaction, lots of fire damage interaction, just lots of good things. And it all comes down to tuning, of course, but they have lots of cooldowns. The active mitigation, empowered wards, Fell Devastation, Metamorphosis. They have lots of on-demand sort of, healing and whatnot, so Soul Barrier looks so good. I still think these should swap places. It looks good. Just looks good. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'll see you on the live stream. Thank you all so much for watching. Hit that like button. That's been a great deal. And I will see you all in the next testing video.